After the furor of Colorado gold died down, the Rocky Mountain Gold Rush moved north to Montana, where once again the Rocky Mountains' rugged peaks rose up from the plains. It didn't take long for the first pan to turn up some placer gold.
In July 1862, a group of prospectors from Colorado who called themselves the Pikes Peakers were doing a little prospecting in Montana in what was what they called Grasshopper Creek because of the sheer numbers of grasshoppers that were there at the time. And they found gold, just like all of the many other mining rushes. It didn't take long for word to get around. The gold that they found was 99.5% pure, with some of the richest gold that's ever been found in the United States. So it brought the people running. Within just a couple of months, there were about 400 prospectors working the hills around what would become Bannack.
The mining town was named for the Bannack Indians and is located in southwestern Montana near the town of Dillon. At its peak, Bannack had 10,000 inhabitants, 3 hotels, 3 bakeries, 3 blacksmith shops, 2 stables, 2 meat markets, a grocery store, a restaurant, a brewery, a billiard hall, 4 saloons, and a Masonic lodge. After this glorious start, it took nearly 100 years for Bannack to go from boomtown to ghost town. That long period of mining activity has given Bannack a wonderful sense of permanence.
The ghost towns of Montana are particularly good, and I want to give kudos to the state because they have protected the best ghost towns in Montana, and they're well worth protecting. First and foremost is Bannack. Bannack was the first real town in Montana, and it would have been very easy to have lost this town to looters because a lot of the buildings were well made and it's been protected. And a nice thing about it and another one of the great ghost towns that I'll talk about in a minute in Montana is you have to leave your car behind. So when you walk into Bannack, you are walking away from the 21st century and back into the 19th.
As you enter this western time capsule, one of the first things you notice is that Bannack is one long main street with buildings on both sides. Buildings such as the Turner House and the Assay Office. Like most buildings in a boom town, they saw many different uses over the years. The Turner House was a residence, post office, and barber shop. The Assay Office was also a stage station and a butcher shop. There's something else to notice about the buildings of Bannack.
What happens with any ghost town or any mining camp is that the first people who are there are just putting up tent cities. Prospects seem good enough, people start building wooden buildings. Well, the real sign of prosperity is when they start building brick buildings, because naturally that means they intend to stay for a long time. And Bannack has excellent examples of all of those. There are just old log cabins, there are board and batten homes, and there is what was the courthouse and is now the Hotel Meade, which is an absolutely wonderful building.
Built in 1875, the county courthouse was supposed to serve as the legal and political center of the region. But it fell on hard times when the railroad missed Bannack. In 1881, only 6 years after its completion, the residents of the county voted to shift the territorial legislature to Dillon. For 10 years, the building remained empty until Dr. John Singleton purchased it and turned it into the center of social activity of Bannack. Finally closing in 1940. It is also one of the most haunted buildings in Bannack.
A park ranger told me an amazing story about a little girl. There was a story of her father was working across the creek, and she had the standard thing for her to do was to take lunch to her father. And one time she went and the creek was running fast, and she drowned. She was buried in her favorite dress, and as I recall, it's a red dress. And I was being told this by a park ranger, a woman who said, "I have never gone up to the second floor of this Mead Hotel because there was a Japanese tourist who came, who went upstairs and came down and said, 'Why is a little girl in a red dress up there?' And she said she just shuddered because, of course, she saw no possible way that this gentleman could know about this story of a ghost, of the little girl who died, who drowned. She said, 'I'm not ever going up there.'"
Across the street from the hotel is the other grand building of Bannack.
There is also a terrific combination Masonic lodge and schoolhouse. The Masons offered to build in Bannack a meeting house, as obviously they do, but they offered to have the first floor to be a schoolhouse. In the West, lots of lodge buildings are on this. The meeting place is on the second floor, and usually below it is a commercial enterprise. In this particular place, it's the only place I know of like this, it was a schoolhouse. And you can go into the schoolhouse and you can look through a plastic second story. You go up a second story and you can look through a plastic window thing and you can see the appurtenances of the Masonic order up there as well.
Bannack is one of those places that lets the visitor walk through the buildings to experience the town's history from the inside out. Remember, the doors may be shut, but they are not locked. Enter. Enjoy. And see if you can feel those ghosts of the past. There is only one church in Bannack, a simple Methodist church. Curiously, it was built in 1877 in response to an Indian threat in the region. When a preacher traveling through town convinced the residents they needed a place of God for safety. A year after the discovery of gold at Bannack, new riches were found at places that would become inextricably bound with Bannack.
Hi, I'm Bill Ambrose. If you like this video, subscribe so we can bring you more programming from our studio. Thank you for subscribing.